is Amy Armstrong, and I am a candidate for my master's degree in educational technology through Boise State University. I am also a candidate for my online teaching certificate. Before I talk about my master's journey, I'd like to give you a little bit of background about myself. When I was growing up, I loved books. I read books every day. They were my escape. They taught me to dream and they taught me to hope. One of my favorite quotes is from Walter Anderson, and he said, "I read myself out of poverty long before I worked myself out of poverty." And I feel like that is the same in my life. Books were how I was able to make connections and have the desire to go on to college. When I was in college, I wanted to choose something that were related to books, so I chose to be an English teacher. In 2001, I graduated from Boise State with my English teaching degree and my French teaching endorsement. I taught for several years at the high school level and thoroughly enjoyed it. I was teaching high school, English, French, and yearbook. However, as I was teaching, I began to realize that this wasn't my dream job. It was an awesome job, but not everything I wanted it to be. A good friend of mine suggested that I get my library endorsement, and I went ahead and did that. 5 years ago, I became the middle school librarian at Heritage Middle School, and I absolutely love my job. I love working with the kids, and I love working with books. In one of my yearly evaluation meetings with the administrator, he asked me if I was looking at getting a further degree, and I said not really. I wasn't that interested in it, and if I was, I would get a reading master's. He looked at me and he said, "I think you should consider getting one in educational technology." Now, the thought had never occurred to me, and I was actually a little bit hesitant about doing this because I love books so much. As I looked at how my job was evolving, I realized that I would need to evolve and change with my job as well. So I did some research and I chose Boise State University to attend for my master's degree. I started in the fall of 2011 and I finished in the spring of 2013. Those 2 years were crazy, chaotic, and busy, but they were full of happiness, triumphs, obstacles, frustrations, and so much knowledge that I could barely cram it all into my head. At the end of that journey, I have become the 21st century librarian that I know that I should be. I started my journey in fall of 2011 by taking 9 credits. My first semester in the master's program, I started off with 9 credits. EdTech 501 was a class where I learned the basics about educational technology. One of the first things that we did was we created a learning log using WordPress. So I was able to gain experience using WordPress, and I set up a learning log and recorded many of the things that I did in my classes in this learning log. One of the things that I loved the most about taking 501 were the different tools that I learned about, especially some of the Web 2.0 tools. One of our assignments was to create a video in Extra Normal, and I chose to do mine on plagiarism, and we created the characters, wrote out the script, and were able to make a video that we uploaded to YouTube. We also used VoiceThread, which is an online collaboration tool where my group and I were able to add slides on there and talk about it as a group scattered across the United States and other countries. One of the other things that we did in 501 is we read the Horizon Report Tech Trend, and we had to pick a tech trend to discuss. As I am a librarian, I chose to talk about ebooks, and it's interesting to see how ebooks have evolved over just the last couple of years. And I actually just purchased my first ebooks this year and have students reading them on a regular basis. This was one of my favorite classes because I was able to see things that I could use right away, and I felt like all of the things that we did helped me be a better teacher and a better leader in my school. One of the things that we did was we took a lesson plan, and since I'm not currently in the classroom, I took one from a friend, and we went through and added educational technology. As you can see, I added some YouTube videos and some pieces of electronic equipment to be used in an Edgar Allan Poe unit. This was by far the hardest class for two reasons. First of all, I don't like video games, I don't like to play them, and I don't like to talk about them. And second of all, it was really hard for me to understand how video games worked. I did understand, though, by the end of the class how they can be beneficial if used correctly in the classroom. One of the first things that we started with was the Scratch platform. And this is a game that students can create, and it's basically a set of directions, and they can make the character or the sprite do whatever they want. I chose to do Hunger Games, and the kids would be creating a timeline, and Katniss would be going along, and she would either win or lose like she does in the Hunger Games. This was humbling because I know that a lot of kids worked on this just for fun, and it was hard for me to learn how to do, but it was a great challenge to overcome. Another major gaming platform that we used in this class was Kodu, which is still in beta testing. So for Kodu, we did a couple of different things. One of the first things that we did as a project was we created a landscape. We were given certain criteria, and we had to have that be in the landscape. And that was a lot of fun to learn how to move things about and have it float in the air. Another thing that we had to do was create two Kodu games. One had to do with apples, and then the third game that we created had to do with a unit that we had planned. And so this is a picture, a screenshot of the game that I created to go along with my lesson plan. The second semester, I took another class that I really struggled in, which was 502 Internet for Educators. And the reason why I struggled is we had to learn how to use HTML code and CSS code, and the textbook was about as thick as a phone book, so it was a little bit intimidating. However, as I started to learn it, I realized what a wonderful skill it is to have. The first view that you see is my original page that I made for all of my projects to reside in. It has very basic design because I was still learning how to use CSS and how to make things look nice on a web page, but I wanted to show that to show where I started and where I ended up. This web page was our last assignment for the class, and it was the most complex. For this assignment, I talked about classic literature versus popular literature, and on the page we had to create a menu. So each of the pages is linked back to this home page. We had an introduction page, a task page, a process, evaluation, conclusion, and teacher page. So we had to build 6 web pages into this web page, and this really challenged my HTML coding and my CSS skills. Each part of the project was done in pieces. So for my project, I was going to take book reports and have students make Animoto movies instead of the traditional book report. So one of the things that we had to do was create a task analysis diagram, and that's what you see, starting with creating an Animoto account. We also had to create a graph looking at prerequisite skills needed in order to do this project. Instructional design taught me that you need to look at each piece of instruction and make sure that you have your goals in mind and that you are completing them as you do each part, and that all the small parts make the whole. EdTech 504, Theoretical Foundations, was an academically rigorous class where we learned about several different learning theories. What I'm showing now is what I learned about the social activist theory. We did research on the different theories and discussed them as a class. I really liked this assignment that we did. We were given a list of different websites and different things to look at, different articles to read, and we had to evaluate which ones helped us learn about statistics the most. My number one pick was a Salman Khan video because after watching it, I actually understood statistics, and it was an interesting topic and had a little humor to it. So for this assignment, we were able to evaluate different things, different modes that taught us about statistics. I had no idea how much effort it took to create an online class that was interesting and relevant. One of the projects that we did for this class was we had to create an online class and pretend to teach someone. So this first screenshot is myself teaching my sister about how to use Google+, which is what I chose to do for my online class and collaboration. The second thing that you see on this screen is an example of a paper slide video that I made to put in my online class. I saw paper slide videos at an in-service I had a couple years ago, and I thought it was a really cool idea, a fun way for students to take technology but to make it look a little bit more artistic. It combines HTML and CSS skills along with visual design and instructional message design. This is an example from the typography assignment where we took 4 words that we are using in our unit, and my unit is on research and writing, and we had to represent that typography using black and white. This was created in Fireworks, and I paid special attention to font and contrast. In this class, we not only created online units, but we also had to teach to an audience. This example that you see is one of the first ones we did as a class. This was our virtual icebreakers. So everyone in the class had to post on this wiki, and then as a group we had to decide what the wiki would look like, who would contribute what, and what the final product would look like. This is a great exercise in patience, but it is also a nice way to use a wiki for students to collaborate online if they can't do it face-to-face. Because of my experiences at Boise State, I have grown in my career. I am now on the leadership committee at my school, and I have also been the technology lead for the past 2 years and help maintain the school website. Another thing that I have done since taking this degree is that the district asked me to teach 2 technology classes. So for this school year, I am teaching 2 classes on how to integrate technology into the classroom using the Common Core standards. I was also asked to lead a Google Plus team, and so I taught teachers how to use Google Hangout, which is what our teachers use to collaborate now with, and the documents that I created for that are now shared district-wide. I have presented at the Meridian District Tech Expo for 3 years in a row, and in February I was able to attend my first ever educational technology conference in Portland, Oregon, which was a lot of fun. So I would like to thank Boise State for my experience and for everything that I learned.